Welcome to the Learning Can't Wait podcast, a Full Mind production. At Full Mind, our vision is to ensure every child has access to an exceptional education. Each episode, we will be joined by pathfinders within and around the education space who are bringing about transformational change on behalf of deserving students. I am your host, Hayley Spira-Bauer. Welcome back, everybody, to the Learning Can't Wait podcast. I have been waiting to record this episode for a very long time, mostly because I had to reschedule, but it's someone for whom the internet knows because of her incredible contributions to the education space. We have Merissa Sadler-Holder, an AI and emerging tech strategist and K-12 innovation consultant. Welcome, Merissa.
Hi, Hayley. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on the podcast today.
I'm super excited. Sorry.
No, you're good. You and I have a lot to talk about. There's a lot we could talk about. I think our guests, our listeners might be surprised with what we spend our time on today. So should we just jump right in?
Let's do it.
All right. So I want to know how you came to be the personal and professional version of yourself.
Well, I guess the personal is just, my background. And I grew up with a mother who was a professor and she taught French. And so I kind of followed in her footsteps. And that not only shaped me because I also went off to live in France. I taught in France. I was in Paris. And I think that kind of shaped my personal background in a sense that I really got to see the world and be open to new things and new cultures and found the importance of being willing to continue to learn and being willing to embrace change. And I think I'm applying that also to my professional, that's where I kind of was like, oh, hey, I like this teaching thing. It's kind of fun and working with kids directly. And so I went back and I ended up getting a credential for a single subject that was French. And so I kind of followed in my mom's footsteps and started running that way. And so that's kind of like the background of where I kind of found myself today.
I always appreciate a story of a person having an educator for a parent and following in their footsteps. But tell us a little bit more about beyond your teaching French in K-12 schools, how you came to be known as an AI and emerging tech strategist. That's, I think, how a lot of people know you. And obviously you need one to have the other, but I'm curious how you landed in this space of embracing, beyond being flexible, embracing emerging technologies.
Sure. So I love teaching and I really enjoyed just this different aspects of it. And of course I taught French, but towards the end of my 10-year mark, I would say, like many, many educators out there, the burnout was real. The kind of things are changing at a rapid pace, but at the same time, not changing for the good. And so this was right at the time I was seriously considering leaving the profession. And what I ended up doing was, COVID hit, right? And so all of a sudden COVID hit and I was very grateful to have my position. But at the same time, it gave me a challenge that I didn't know I needed in that pushing myself, learning new ways to teach in this environment. So much so that I ended up getting a master's in e-learning at the same time I was teaching, just because I thought it would be great to see, I was seeing students become super the ones that kind of were the quiet wallflower in the class, all of a sudden just become these dynamic students online. So I thought, okay, there are students that thrive in this environment, and I think I should start really tapping into best practices on how to teach in this environment. So that's why I went and got my master's. I applied those directly to my classes. And it was great. It was a great experience. But then as soon as COVID kind of, wound down and we were returning to the classroom, it felt like the pressure to return to what was already broken seemed really, really overwhelming and discouraging, right? I didn't want to return to something that was draining me. And so I didn't really know what to do, right? And so I started going to, I won tickets to ASU GSV, the summit, the big guy, right? And when I went there, I saw that, this is supposed to be the top emerging technologies, have all these thought leaders and well-known people, but there was no educators there, like chalk in hand educators. And yet these are the people who directly make decisions that affect students and teachers. And at that moment, I kind of started wanting to represent something more than just what I was doing in my own classroom. And so when generative AI kind of was hitting the scene, and that was the summit that was kind of like everything was AI. And I just knew this is the moment. Like, teachers like myself and teachers everywhere are going to need somebody who is going to be in the ring for them. We clearly are not being invited to the table for these discussions. So and I had to act within my classroom, right? The bounds of my classroom. I represented my school district. I represented, who I am professionally. And if I remove those things and step outside of my comfort and really start representing and getting to be the spicy apple, then they can't not listen to us, right? So that's kind of what I did. I put in a leave of absence for a year, kind of as a safety net, and thankfully they awarded me that. And I just started building Teaching with Machines. Now, originally, I really wanted to just kind of step in and find a role and work for a company that already was established. But I quickly found that the job that I wanted to do just simply did not exist. It was something with AI, it was something with education, it was about making sure that our teachers are ready. And so I found out, well, I have to build my own pathway. And so I built my own company. And that is where Teaching with Machines came in. And that's kind of where I find myself right now, is going from the classroom and just plowing through and figuring things out along the way and kind of becoming that squeaky wheel. And I quickly also found out, and I have to be completely honest with your listeners, like, I thought I could represent the teacher's voice, and that is a job that, like, no one can do that.
Yeah.
So, and also there are teachers who don't want that, right? So it became more about amplifying the teacher voice. I quickly realized it just needs to be amplified. It needs to be spoken into rooms. And I think with AI, with so many changes in how we're all learning together, this is our opportunity to step up and really see us more than just a teacher.
Mm. So many things you said resonated with me. First of all, I have to call out, instead of squeaky wheel, which you used, you said also spicy apple. Please forever use that phrase. That moniker is absolutely perfect. It really encapsulates, though, this mindset about teachers being in the room and speaking up. That was my first reflection when I went to my first ASU as well. I do think it's improved in the past 3 years. I do think that ASU GSV has made a concerted effort to get more educators. Do I think there could be more? Always. But people building tools for kids need to talk to the people teaching kids. So it is
Agreed.
so important. And I'm glad you raised that point. I had the same experience the first time I attended. I was like, okay, who's this for? Who is the audience? I was very confused.
Well, and I really do think, like, what you're saying is that if you're going to be building these tools, because the fact of the matter is, right, teachers can now build these tools.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If a teacher sits down, they can build their own tools, right? And so, yeah, our voice is now just that much more important. And I think ASU GSV, like, I think they recognize that. And I think they are making, like you said, they're making a concerted effort to make sure there is room at the table for them. And so, of course, I'd like to see more too, but like, it's a start. We are working our way towards that. But the reality is, as we, start having more access to these tools and just having the passion to do things and create things like many educators want to do, the fact is we can start creating our own solutions.
Yeah, there are all the open source materials and all the no code vibe coding options out there make it really feasible for educators to put the power and design of these products in their own hands. So it is
100%.
definitely an interesting shift. Merissa, I think we now need to touch on something else big that happened to you around this time of COVID that really did catapult a lot of what you're focused on today and gave you the ability to focus on it. Let's talk a little bit about GameStop.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So going kind of back to your question between like your personal and professional, um, I had a moment there. Okay, so I started with GameStop. I was starting to dive into the stock market as kind of a way to continue my learning because I had a little bit more bandwidth to do it, just the given COVID, right? Given the circumstances of COVID, continued learning. And one of those things was GameStop. And so I really dived into it. I started applying some of my teacher skills to that space, and I created a name, and it was kind of like, I had a following on Twitter. I was in, like in Discords on Reddit, and I was doing all of these things kind of, in hiding. And because of the nature of what was going on with GameStop. But I think the biggest thing that I took away from it is that I was really testing out these, or not testing out, what is it? Kind of like reaching into these dormant skills that I simply did not use or had use of within the classroom. And so there are these dormant skills about really leading the pack and kind of a cheerleader for learning. And not that I don't do that in the classroom, it was just on a greater scale. And kind of taking these complex ideas and really breaking it down, and again on like on a bigger scale. And my audience was just vast, and it was really wild to see that I suddenly had this following, and that I was in, like, we had a podcast and we were interviewing industry leaders. And I just, like, I wanted to do more with that within education. But the reality is that my educational job was wanting to put those four walls around me and keep me in as a French teacher. And so I had this push-pull thing. And one thing that I really took away from that GameStop experience was, A, you can make money. And, B, it made enough money for me to be able to take my year off, and something that gave me the safety of doing that. So I really appreciate that experience. But what I also experienced was what happens when people with all of their strengths and individual strengths and backgrounds come together, and their experiences come together with a common goal of trying to do something great and grand. And really the emphasis is learning about these things and sharing. So I was the person who was able to break down complex ideas. Somebody else was the guy that made everybody laugh and felt a part of a community. And somebody else was really good at looking at data and extracting data. And we had all of this going, like almost like a hive mind, like sharing of information and constant learning. And it really just, I mean, for me, it was such an impactful experience because it almost created this persona of myself that didn't exist in my professional life. And finally, somebody who knew that I was an educator said to me, "You got to do whatever you're doing with your Twitter, do the same thing with LinkedIn." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, LinkedIn, really?" Well, the thing is as a LinkedIn, as a teacher on LinkedIn, there's no need for us to network. There's no need for us to really spend our time on there because we can't move up the ladders. We can't make collaborations and partnerships. And it really, I mean, we can, but it doesn't really get us any further. And so, to be honest, our bandwidth is also in the classroom. So I started doing that, and I started applying those kind of like, if I'm a spicy GameStop wanting to change the world girl and make, fight for transparency and fight for what's right, I can apply that to my professional life. And that is exactly kind of how teaching with machines and the spicy apple persona kind of merged those two things together. So I'll be forever grateful for me finding myself in a sense during this period.
What a wild story. I took me so long to understand what was happening in GameStop. I wish I had found you during that time so I could better understand it because I needed that type of education. Now, obviously, I have a deeper understanding, but in the moment, it was like a wild, wild time.
It was, and it was a long period. I mean, many people think it was just that one day, and that's simply not true. And I think that's what we're seeing in AI, like the release of AI, and then okay, great. But there's just, it's so ongoing. And I want to capture that feeling of we're all working together. We're all bringing our different expertise. We're all leading the way to making change on something that we are very passionate about. And so I'm hoping to see that a little bit more. And I already see it. I mean, meeting people like you, Hayley, and our little LinkedIn bubble over here, I mean, and to
Yeah.
any of your listeners, like, dude, reach out, find me on, LinkedIn. We'll hang out. We'll do a coffee chat.
So, what has you really excited? First of all, that's really generous. Thank you. What has you really excited and what has you wary about the current trend with artificial intelligence and other emergent technologies in education right now?
Um, I think my current concern is maintaining the status quo. And it was my concern before COVID too,
Woo!
and after COVID.
Oh, yes.
So, the problem is that we are educating, like at least what I'll just speak from my experience. My experience that leadership and education they're such in a reactionary mode that there is no room for innovation. And so the idea of trying to take something like AI on and apply it to their realm is always not an afterthought. It's always on the back burner because there's so much other things that are pulling them away from that. And my concern is that as we constantly keep on doing that and maintaining just the status quo and trying to react when we need to, instead of focusing on what's actually happening in the background, um, there's going to come a time where it's going to really truly harm us not knowing these things. And our students, most importantly, our students are falling behind even more so. And the workforce is already demanding some kind of understanding of AI. And those jobs, I mean, that's what's scary, right? In education, is that we always are trying to teach for their future, but we only see it as our current present. We know their future will look like potentially our present. So we try to get the kids to have those skills to prepare them for that. But the problem is that we don't know, even for ourselves, what 5 years will look like.
Mhm.
So, but we do know is that AI is here. AI is
Mhm.
going to continue. AI is still going to impact the workforce. It's going to impact people. And the only way that you can truly prepare yourself is to start learning and continue that learning. And I feel like in education, again, those leadership, it's a matter of saying, okay, that needs to be removed from the back burner. This is important. Is it going to revolutionize education? Let's stop saying that. Let's just say it's going to dramatically affect education. And that is enough of a flag for us to say, all right, best practices are changing. We need to start looking into this.
So let's say I'm an educator who has never touched AI, which, oh gosh, I hope there aren't many, but I fear there are. Where do you suggest they start learning? Like what's the place you would send them to begin their education so they can bring it to their classrooms?
I honestly, I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, go to this website to start learning. I would say the best thing any educator can do is to start playing around with it. And that could be, Claude, that could be ChatGPT. It could just be any of those large language models that are free. to use. And the reason why I say that is because when you start using it, not even applying it to your profession, when you start using it, you start quickly realizing how to leverage it, manipulate it, get it to work, and then also quickly learning its limitations. And I think once you start kind of doing that, you'll feel a little bit more at ease knowing where it could apply in your own profession. I think teachers don't realize that they are primed to be excellent AI users. They know how to communicate exactly what they want the AI to do, just like they would be able to do with their students. They knew how to reiterate, bring back to the, reiterate, maybe gently redirecting, like all of those things that we do in the classroom, you have to do with AI. And it's almost like you have to see AI as like a very smart student who still very much needs boundaries and guidance.
Oh,
And
wait, I love this. I love this. Let's dig into this idea a little bit.
sure.
I'm interrupting you only because I'm like, oh yeah, it is a smart student who like doesn't know when they're wrong. Also, it could be my oldest son. One or the other. Let's
Yeah.
play this metaphor out. They need boundaries. What else?
They need boundaries, they need guidance. Sometimes they need examples of what is your expectations.
Mm,
Um, they need encouragement in a sense, like if it outputs something that you like, you tell it that. You
mm,
say, hey, I like how that looks, because it'll start to learn what it is that you're looking for.
mm.
It'll start to learn what you are expecting the output to look like. I think also you need to give it feedback. Like, how is it doing?
Yeah.
Well, if you don't like something, you can give that feedback. And I think, again, it's a very smart child who absolutely needs the touch of a teacher.
Oh my
All
goodness.
their
Wait, this is a whole new concept and a new way of describing it that I have not heard anyone do. Now, forgive me for the listeners if there's somebody who's talking about AI in the form of this like student metaphor, but Merissa, you're onto something here. I
Thank
like
you.
this.
I have a free resource if anybody is interested, and it's called Prompt Like a Teacher. And it just
Ooh.
basically is this idea of providing boundaries, about redirection, and teachers really already having the tools to be able to do this, if not even better than most people in other professions.
Mm.
We are extremely good communicators. So communicate what it is that you want, provide feedback, all of that. It's a free download. I mean, it's just kind of to help you kind of get in your mind in the game.
Teachers love free things because they don't get paid enough. So I love that.
This
I'm
is
glad you're
true.
sharing it.
Absolutely.
Marissa, my final question for you is what advice would you give a teacher starting their career today? I mean, you obviously just gave some great advice about getting started in AI, but what about just in general? What would you tell a teacher who's just starting in the profession?
Oh gosh, now the spicy apple is going to come out.
Oh, yes, bring her
Um, don't feel the pressure to be a martyr.
on.
Um, I think it's okay to push back within your expertise. I think it's okay to be reminded that you are an educator and you've been educated, right? You have your expertise behind you. Many of us have the degree and also the master's to go along with it. And I just want you to remind yourself that you are the expert in education, period. And keeping that in mind, demand that others treat you as such. And remember that we teach people how we want to be treated a lot of times.
Mm, mm,
And if you come in and are an amazing educator, may the system finally deserve you, because
mm.
that is what I want teachers to walk away with. Yes, the profession is incredibly rewarding. Yes, it's amazing to teach, but enough is enough. No more playing the martyr. we are not magic, we are professional.
Mm.
And we are experts in our field. And I really do hope that we really do see increase in pay. In fact, Hayley, I know this is our last question, but can
No,
I just
go.
share kind of the defining moment that kind of kicked, it was nerve-wracking leaving the classroom, right? And that's why
Of
I had
course.
my leave of absence, because I went from a 13-year tenureship, 10 years department chair. I mean, my job was solid at one of the top school districts in California.
Right.
I think one of the defining moments that actually was like, that's it, I'm out here, is having a former student come back to me, just having graduated college. And he was so excited telling me about his, new job coming in. He just was given his first job offer and zero experience, and just simply, I think it was a BA degree. And I asked him, I'm like, I gotta know just for my own sake, because I mean, I usually don't do this, but I'm like, how much are you getting paid?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what does that look like nowadays? And he told me, and it was almost $20,000 over what I have been getting paid
Mm.
as an educator with 13 years experience and a master's degree.
Mm.
And I just said, that's it. I am done
Mm.
having my expertise being regarded in a way that is not valued. And so um I I stopped asking permission for that um value, and started just saying, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to find my own value, and I'm going to make sure people pay attention. And so I think we can still take that spirit,
Mm.
even if you are starting as a new teacher, you can still take that spirit and apply it, because we need to make that change. And I'm hoping and praying that these younger new teachers are going to come in and say, enough is enough.
Mm.
If we want to see education continue and thrive, we have to make changes.
Yeah, no, that's a really powerful story. And like, I don't think we should feel apologetic about the choices we've made. And I don't think you are apologetic about the choices we've
No.
made. And at the same time, like I will fiercely advocate for teachers being paid more until my last breath on this planet, because it is unreal to me that for a society who depends on the success of our graduates to continue capitalism, we don't pay or respect teachers the way they deserve to be treated and respected. So, yes, and we need to demand that respect, and we need others to continue the work of amplifying and fighting and advocating and putting in the work to get teachers what they deserve. And there are so many people doing that, right? And I want to be a part of that. I want to be with them.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, we're just going to continue experiencing the emotional whiplash
Mm-hmm.
and being told we're valuable and that we're, really important in society, but through our pay, we're not being valued. And so it's almost like, stop gaslighting us. And I have to say this, and I hopefully it won't like make, you want to bleep this out, but I just remember Judge Judy saying, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Oh, I
And
had
it's
that. I
this.
had her book. Like I had that book.
Oh, me too.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I did too. I read her book, but it's so true. Like, stop telling me I am valuable, but in the way we show value as a society is
Mm-hmm.
through our pay. So
Money talks.
let's, yeah, exactly. So again, I want new teachers to feel empowered. That is the most important thing. You feel empowered so you can break that cycle of martyrdom.
Spicy apple. I
Yeah.
am so glad you came here and shared your wisdom, your experience, your expertise, even if just a little bit of it with our audience. You are really a true light in this space, and I'm grateful to know you.
Thank you so much. Same to you, Hayley. I really just appreciate you and all the listeners. Like, just remember, you've got this. We've got this.
You've got this. And thank you to everybody
Yeah.
for tuning in today. Thanks for listening to the Learning Can't Wait podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share this episode. Be the first to know when we have a new episode by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have a suggestion for an episode, email us at podcast@fullmindlearning.com.